I'm Len Wright, CEO of AppClover.com, and along with me, my partner, Matthew Lutz, CEO of AppClover. We welcome you to another Appreneur Appcast. Thank you for joining us. Today, our special guests are David Chodish and Terry Kavanagh of BeanJar. David is an inventor, designer, and co-founder of BeanJar. During his 20-so years of professional creative work, David has spotted the landscape with innovative products including toys, games, and sports gear, marketed by companies like Mattel Toys, Hasbro, Hallmark, Burger King, and others. He's also taught toy design at the Chatter School in Los Angeles. One of his beliefs is that failure is the biggest component of success, and we'll talk a little bit more about that to come. Terry Kavanagh is also with us today and also a co-founder of BeanJar. Has 25 years of experience managing creative projects in book publishing and gaming. As writer and editor of Marvel Comics back, he was created multiple monthly titles such as Web of Spider-Man, X-Men, and Avengers. Yay! Terry has also created award-winning work across a myriad of entertainment platforms, including the web. He's become a devout game enthusiast and a social networking savant who brags about having 2,000 LinkedIns to date. More than me. I think 600. But welcome, David and Terry. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. I think we're all pretty excited.
Thanks, Len and Matt.
We're excited to be here as well.
All right, so I get the honor of extracting juicy information from you guys. Now, you know, that sounds probably a little more painful than it's actually going to be, but so I kind of want to kick off with, because the app that you guys have out there right now, My BeanJar, is just a really, really cool concept. And I'm kind of curious as to if you can share with the appreneurs out there and our community out there the why and how of what led you to, number one, the app space, because you both come from kind of eclectic backgrounds, and then how you got started with My BeanJar. And to take it one step further, what do you see in the market that basically is missing that My BeanJar can actually, like, what's the gap that My BeanJar fills for developers out there?
Well, I can start off. Thanks for having us here, guys. Really appreciate it. My background in the toy and game business actually started when I was about 3 as a consumer, and my parents were, and then I started to invent games, and mainly was interested in casual games because I have a simple mind, and was not that interested in really joining these alternate worlds where there was a lot of rules and stuff. So in around 2009, I was developing what I thought was going to be a brilliant mobile game concept, and I wanted the rewards portion to be a little more special, because I wasn't that excited by points and badges and things like that. So I was kind of curious how real rewards could be immediately delivered as part of the game. So I started to think about some smartphone features at the time, and how to make this work, and realize that there were coupon apps that were starting to emerge, and I thought that it might be possible to actually reward players with real stuff that could be redeemed, just like digital coupons. And so the coupons could be actually stored in an app and retrieved right at the store counter in a brick-and-mortar store. So I bounced this idea off my friend and college roommate Terry here, and after he heard about the game and the game idea, he sort of thought, well, game is okay, but really what is good about this is this idea of a rewards platform, and could possibly really blend itself into a big advertising network that could lure in advertisers as a way to distribute these coupons. And so after we had a few discussions about that, we realized that we had the germ of this idea, which was became My BeanJar, the biggest money making scheme ever. We did some surveys, and we discovered that other people also like this idea of being able to win real rewards in their games. And as smartphones really started to become ubiquitous, that, and more game developers were popping up and more games were appearing, that we realized this was had some viability.
Yeah, it's funny. Len and I, we talk a lot about the psychology that goes into various apps and just in things like that. And one of the things that, just in marketing in general, we're both marketing minds, right? So we kind of like we like to think about what motivates people and things like that. And game theory is definitely one of those things that you're seeing popping up more and more. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the website Quibids, but they use, like we were talking about, that it doesn't necessarily motivate you. It does for some people, like the badges and the levels and things like that. Like, that's something you're seeing a lot of. But the fact that you guys have taken like game theory and put it on steroids. So the fact you're giving like real tangible coupons and things that you can win, it's just a genius idea, and I think there's definitely a place for it in this market, and I think you guys are definitely on something. So
the localization in the app space is becoming a big buzz. And it's a lot of times being left out in a lot of the apps that are out there right now. They're not thinking about localization. In the mag space, we're thinking about localization with languages, with all the different types. So we're thinking ahead that way. But what I like about with you guys is it brings the mobile user back right into the retail atmosphere again, which the retailers they've got to love.
Yeah, it was all about the connecting the virtual world with the real world. And I was really stunned when Dave and I first started discussing this to find out that nobody was already doing this idea. It seemed so natural to be offering real-life rewards for virtual usage or virtual actions that I really couldn't understand how no one was doing it at that time at all. And the more we researched it and the more we found that it wasn't out there yet, there was going to be a demand for it because of this desire to connect virtual with real world, the more we realized this was worth pursuing on our end.
What's great is you think about, just a few years back, and this still happens, but it's just not, it doesn't make as much noise and it doesn't get noticed as much for people, is, people would send those coupon books locally, like, so here's all the deals in your neighborhood and all that stuff. And it's like, now you guys have taken and literally, like, made coupons in your pocket, so it's crazy that you can just win something, and now I have 50% off of a local, restaurant here because where I'm located, and I had fun playing it. So, again, kudos to you guys. I don't want to make your heads too big, but just it's going to be fun watching your company grow and more and more app developers start to integrate things like this, like My Bean Jar, into their games and stuff. So, all of that said, I'm going to move on, and maybe we can dive into some more questions. Len, did you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, I was just going to think about the Groupon and all the coupon stuff that was going on when you mentioned that. It was great timing because that sort of went up and sort of level off, but now moving it into a space that people are already diverging into by the millions, and that is the mobile space, and putting the gamification along with it. I just wanted to add my kudos in there as well. It's just some bright thinking, and now just basically taking it out into the marketplace. So good for you guys.
Thanks.
And I'd like to mention as well, when you talk about how, as opposed to these paper coupons that come to you in the mail and now they're mobile on our phone, the other advantage we have is this direct targeting to people. People choose the categories they're interested in. I live in New York City. A lot of people don't own a car here in New York City, so they don't really want to get a coupon for a muffler change. And so if they don't pick automotive as one of the categories, we won't deliver that to them. So they won't get something that's of no value to them, and the advertiser won't be paying to deliver to someone who there's really no chance of driving them into the store. I get Valpak and other coupon packages here in my mail at home all the time, and every single month there's a coupon for a chimney cleaning. Again, I live in an apartment in New York. That chimney cleaning company is wasting their money paying Valpak or whatever other company to send that to me every single month. It's not going to happen. I will not have a chimney next month either.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. As much as you'd want it, maybe or maybe not, it's not going to happen. That targeting aspect is incredible, but not just for the retailer. for the user, like you were saying, it's brilliant, because the retailer then just only pays for people who are actually interested in receiving those specified ads, because we all buy things. We all are consumers as well. So it's not like we don't want advertising, but we want advertising that's going to be beneficial for us, that we're going to want. We're using already, right? So that's brilliant, Terry. That's great.
And for the game publisher, it helps it be perceived as a reward. Yep. You know, that it's not an ad. If I'm playing a game and I'm proud that I beat level 3 of some game, and again I get a coupon to clean my non-existent chimney, it's going to quickly become clear that that's not much of a reward to me. So that won't reflect well on the game either. But if it is something that I, in some manner or another, pre-selected, then it's a reward, and I'm proud of it. And not only that, I'm going to brag about it. I'm going to hit the button that says, you know, tweet this, Facebook this, email that Terry Kavanaugh won 10% off at the Gap playing Wampa Weasel. And so I've not only bragged about my accomplishment, but I've marketed the game and the advertiser at the same time.
You've added the viral ability in there to be able to share wins. So it's not just sharing a deal, because that goes only so far, but people will share their ego-based wins much more than they'll, you know, here's a good deal, or I won. It's a much different psychology behind it. So good idea, good thinking.
Which in turn, of course, sparks the other side of the people that are seeing that, the competitive nature of human beings. They're like, well, if he won that, I can win too. And thus starts the viral ability, Yeah,
nice.
And right from the beginning, we believe it enters into the winner, the user's consciousness in a different way, because you're sitting enjoying, for right or wrong, this proud moment of I beat level 3 of Wampa Weasel, and at that moment, that's when the first brand impression comes up. It's not an interruption to your entertainment experience, it's an enhancement to it, and it sort of rides into your brain on a positive endorphin wave, and you're not resistant to it. In fact, you're very receptive to it. You're welcoming it because it's something you feel you worked pretty hard to get.
And I think that's a huge point right there too, because that's one of the things you hear constantly in this space is that, you know, the pop-up ads and all that stuff, the actual ads are annoying. They annoy the heck out of the user experience, right? They're not. There's not really a place for it, and I think we're going to see a huge shift with the likes of what you guys have done, and I'm sure there's other technology and ideas that other people that we haven't met yet are going to come up with that basically enhance the user experience instead of just, you know, doing the exact opposite, where it's like, I want to play a game and I'm happy I beat the level, but I don't want to get, like you said, a chimney sweeping, you know, coupon or ad that shows up because it has no relevance in my life. Or I don't want to get interrupted because I accidentally my finger hit a banner ad on accident and then I'm taken somewhere else, and it's like, what?
Yeah, so it goes beyond a permission-based as well, because, you know, they're not only just giving you permission, but they're actually engaged. So it's, you know, you have interruptive marketing and permission marketing, but this actually gets swept in and a smoother way, because it's not just permission. They're looking forward to it. It's eager.
Yes.
So
it's an aspirational element that will encourage you to play longer game sessions, more game sessions, and it's an incremental revenue stream for the publishers, so they can in fact increase their return on their other revenue streams as well by having that increased engagement.
Nice.
That's a great point.
Nice.
So I'm going to shift gears a little bit here, and obviously what you have now on the market, I'm sure that's not where it started as far as My Bean Jar and that app. So David, I'm going to direct this to you. Maybe you could talk a little bit about, and we touched on this a little bit. We've had, you know, an offline conversation about this a little bit this morning. Just the idea of your belief of failure is the biggest component of success.
Right. Right. Well, you know, this is something that I think as a designer you become very accustomed to, and for me, I was lucky because in high school even I was encouraged to experiment and question everything, and it made me realize that there really is no you know, roadmap or blueprint to getting to success. It's kind of a mystery, and it's something where, you know, you really have to create your own path to, and so what I think the key is that, you know, you have to be humble and open-minded and trust yourself, and realize that you know, your goals may not be the same as other people's goals, and the more clear you are about that, the better you are at learning from your mistakes, the more likely you can use those to your benefit. So my dad was an entrepreneur, and he encouraged some level of risk taking, and that was good. It made me feel safe, to do this. And we when we started out, we did realize that we were kind of fish out of water here. We had this cool idea, and we not only had to invent that, but we had to invent the process of inventing that in a way, and learning how to learn to do that. So I think that what we did was we became learned to be as thorough as we could, and tried to apply everything we learned, and then understand it, and try to repurpose it in some ways. So the thing is, we did a lot of we had to figure out kind of what didn't work to get what did work, and so we realized that some of the things that were motivating us were that we wanted to be fixated on user experience, and creating a product that was going to be usable by everyone and in their own way, because one of the things that I think a lot of technologists kind of back themselves into a corner by putting the technology first, and then kind of force fitting it into whatever use case there is, or sort of telling people this is how you use it. And one thing I noticed of being a toy designer even is that kids play with a toy however they want to, and you have to really expect that, encourage that. So we realized that the technology, even though we were building it to enable this process and this workflow, so to speak, had to be really invisible and secondary to the user experience and the relevance that we were trying to create with this product, and then that would be how it would be adopted by people, that if it really made sense to them and it was part of their lifestyle. So we basically just had to go through this process over and over and over again, and really work closely with coders who tend to be sort of binary in terms of like looking at the world, and really almost come up with our own language to enable the production of this, so that people were open-minded to the fact that look, there's got to be different ways to use this, and based on their own schedule and their own interests, and then this feeling of personalization that you guys were talking about earlier, the fact that not only are they going to use it the way they want, but the offers that they win and the rewards that they win have to be things that are things that they're gonna want. So the failure, I think, has gradually the failures that we've made, and believe me, we've made plenty, and have taken pivoted several times. But I think that we've been able to learn how to repurpose those and integrate them into where we're at now, which hopefully is on a path towards a successful product.
To something Dave said there, if you just follow somebody else's path to success, you're really just going to get to the same place they are. And they got there before you, and they own that space already. And there was a certain advantage we had to not coming from the advertising industry or the digital gaming industry. There were certainly, Dave came from the toy industry, I came from the comic book industry, so I knew about mass messaging. But when we were building this, if we had come from the advertising industry, for instance, we would have found ourselves building this more towards the way the advertising industry expected to work. And there would have been nothing really novel or groundbreaking about this. And instead, what we really kept doing, as Dave said, was working towards what would be best for the user experience. And the downside of this is, for instance, when we spoke to game publishers were used to there being free methods of monetization, either pay for play or in-game purchases or, ad-supported games. So when we would speak to them about what we were doing, they kept trying to fit us into one of those models. And they kept saying, so you're a haircut on an ad-supported. And we would say, no. In fact, we're a fourth model. And it was very difficult in some cases to get people over that initial stumbling block. And had we come from one of those two sectors, we would have tried to fit it in to what was already expected there. And maybe there would have been an advantage to getting adoption a little quicker, but I don't think we would have had as groundbreaking or interesting or valuable a product in the end.
Yeah, and just to reiterate on that, there's still this fixation on the CPM model, as being the sort of basis of advertising on the web or in mobile. And it's so flawed because it's such a really kind of a bad indicator. And I think that maybe now there's a realization of that, just because it's an impression, it doesn't mean it's going to provoke a sale, which is the holy grail of advertising. How do we sell a product? How do we actually get the cash register to ring? And so when, and Terry said it's true, being kind of foreigners to this space, we didn't know, we weren't kind of jaded by that thinking, and so what we were driven by is how do we really motivate a customer to go to the store, with a call to action, or whatever it is that will get them in front of the cash register and actually spend money on a product, and it's funny because there's still this kind of like a standardized quantification of CPMs or even click-throughs, which don't necessarily translate into a sale. So we wanted to get right to that idea of how can we actually deliver traffic to the store to prompt a sale, and that's really been sort of the backbone of why coupons, because they are a proven method of doing that. They're one of others, but it truly is a time-tested method of doing that. And then the use of the smartphone technology, I think, has gotten a lot of people over this idea of that coupons are for sort of like your grandma or whatever who's going to carry them around in this big fat coupon wallet. Where we made that a little more elegant and useful and acceptable.
Well, and the thing is, sorry, Terry, I was just to say, what you guys are really doing is new and innovation takes new perspectives.
Absolutely.
So you see things from a different way. You can actually create it. Matt and I are not from the mobile space to begin with either, the app space, and so looking from the outside in, we're able to say, hold on, there was all this lack of education where the challenges really were marketing and monetization. Being able to make that a success, and there was very little true good information like this out there. So, but the reason we've seen that is because of the background that we came from.
Yeah.
Well, and new technology shouldn't just be used to deliver the same old things in a new way. It's an opportunity to create new things to use with this new technology, and we're not just looking to deliver a coupon in a different way digitally. It comes along with a store locator, it comes along with a site link, it comes along with a live phone number. All of these are extra value to both the advertiser and to the user and the consumer. They're all now in one place, and then we don't just abandon that advertiser once we've delivered the coupon to the user. We have a bunch of features within the app itself that further drive the consumer into the store. We have sorting features that if you have 10 minutes to kill on a particular street corner, waiting for your friends or family, or at the mall, you can click and sort by what beans do I have that are redeemable within a certain radius of me. If you're looking for shoes for your kids, you can sort by what children's apparel beans do I have. Or if you just really simply jonesing for a Starbucks, you can sort by what Starbucks brand beans do I have. We have, expiration alerts in there that can warn you this bean is going to expire within 24 or 48 hours, which again will drive you into the store faster. So we didn't just look at this mobile technology as a new way to deliver a coupon, but what other features can we add that will add value to that coupon itself?
You got my dog excited.
Okay, that's a start for us.
It's funny. Unknowingly, as you guys are sitting here talking, I'm kind of grinning because I'm like, okay, I'll check that question off. They've taken care of that one. Just got in a natural flow, and have gone over some great information. I mean, it's funny because one of the things, just to kind of rewind a little bit to David, with regards to failure is the biggest component of success. I always say, man, it's going to sound like I'm saying the wrong thing.
I guess it could be there too.
Yeah, you have to learn, right?
Yeah.
Just depends on how you're motivated. It's funny. One of my favorite quotes. I shared this with Len the other day.
That's not available on my bean jar. Just make that.
Not yet.
Not yet. This is one of my favorite quotes. It's a Miles Davis quote, and it just says, don't fear mistakes. There are none. And I think like the reality is I mean, we've been through some really big learning lessons lately, and it's going to continue. And as long as you keep evolving and keep shaping and merging forward, exactly what you guys are doing, I think you're heading down the right path. It's funny too. Another thing you'd mentioned, just to kind of about the fact that people play with toys their own way, and it's funny just to share a very, very quick story and just my thinking. At one point, my niece, this was 10 years ago or something like that. Have you ever seen those toys that stack like smaller to they're like bigger to smaller? They're on a post. They're just like these plastic rings.
Plastic rings, yeah.
Well, she started stacking them upside down, and in my head I was like, no, that's wrong. And then I didn't say that. And then I was watching her, and I'm like, no, I'm wrong. Like she can have her own experience here. And what and it just, that moment was, believe it or not, that little tiny moment was pivotal in my thinking and in shaping me as who I was going to become, because I was like, wow, everyone does have their own experiences. They bring their own, you're the sum of your own, your experiences of what you are today, right? Everything you've been through. So not to get too deep, but the fact that you guys are creating My Bean Jar to have all these functions of, like Terry, what you were talking about, being able to sift through and sort for your particular instance, if you're waiting on the corner, if you're doing this, if you've got more time, if you want a specific thing you're looking for. Awesome. I mean, just great. You couldn't be creating a better, more engaging product. I don't think you could. I mean, it's just amazing what you guys are doing. So
thank you.
Tip of the cap to you again.
Interesting, your story about watching your niece play. It sounds like you almost had a bigger, stronger learning moment from watching her engagement and playing with that toy than she could have gotten out of that. She might have learned how to stack things, but you had a sort of epiphany of some.
And it came in the time of my life where I was, and I won't get too deep here at all, but I just to give you an idea, I'm an artist, and I went to art school and all that stuff. That's my background, right? And so at that time, it was just a matter of being looser and studying different mediums like that, or getting onto a computer and starting to do that stuff. So I was like, I had an internal struggle going anyway at the time, was whether, you can be more free form with art, or does it need to go on a computer. So anyway, so it was a pretty pivotal moment for me. All that stuff aside, I don't want to make this about me. Let's get back to you guys. and more importantly, the My Bean Jar. I'm curious, if you can kind of give us some examples of like who's using it, who's the perfect user for your platform, and how can our viewers benefit from it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have there's three constituents. There's the developer or publisher. There's the sponsor, which is also an advertiser, and then there's the end user, the person who actually wins the coupons and receives them and redeems them. And so the system is really built for the business model is really a B2B model where we're catering more to businesses, because that's who is providing the content really. And so the ideal users, I guess, the ideal parties are developers, whether they be game publishers or other publishers of content that want to incent or reward or for loyalty or for usage. The triggering of the coupon doesn't actually have to go into a game. It can be set according to any other kind of method that was preferred. So it could be the amount of time that's being used, played, or the something that's downloaded, or something. Or
you can do certain call to actions and motivate a call to action as an example with a reward. And
exactly. There's so many things that can be incentivized. Corporations can. There's a big push now to reward employees for different things they do, and this can be used and for that kind of setting as well, and of course education. So we think that there's
fundraising.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that one of the most interesting things we've seen, and it really, I think, in a way validated what we're doing, is we did a test market in Southern California earlier in 2012, last year, and we had users who were actually winning the beans and going to the store to redeem them, and we found that the food, the ones related to restaurants seem to be the strongest, and we've discovered actually that restaurant coupons and apparel are the two best, most redeemed coupons in the world anyway. But one of the things that was really interesting is that we went and asked some of the merchants afterwards how it was doing, and we followed this very closely. And not only were they excited by the results, but they were getting tremendous upsells from the purchases. So one of the, aside from it actually driving someone into the store, it created, a higher transaction, that is phenomenal for the merchant, and we think that that will, and it was purely voluntary, but we think that will lead to some brand loyalty there, and some a nice sustainable connection between what might be a new customer and the store or the restaurant themselves. So I guess the ideal customer, I guess, for us is we're really focused on the publishing part of it right now, because that's who we want to really drive this. We're really relying on being almost not invisible, but we want to be a layer for those publishers and developers to give them this other feature that will both create an engagement and income for them, and then some discoverability, and also some analytics, which we can, because we can track the usage of the bean delivery, and when and where it's being delivered, and when and where it's being redeemed. And we're really interested in studying this delta between the delivery and the redemption, and whether this phenomenon can really be used to, the bean jar can be used to compress that that delta, which would be phenomenal if we discover that we're really provoking this purchase because people are so motivated when they receive the beans this way.
One thing I might rephrase that Dave just said is I think our ideal partners are the game publishers right now. We eventually will expand out into other content. We can be used to incentivize dollars spent or hours spent or downloads done or registrations or donations or anything. So we're launching in through games because it's particularly hot and sexy, and there seem to be some pain points there about what monetizations are working best for them and how advertisers can best manifest in those, especially in the small mobile screens. The banner ads, at least to my eyes, are almost unreadable at this point, and I think you mentioned earlier even that with those small screens, you're hitting the wrong button half the time and getting sent somewhere you don't want to go. And so we're trying to address that as well. But what I wanted to rephrase that Dave said is I think our ideal users, and this was a bit of a surprise to us at the beginning because one's intuitive instinct is that kids play games. And if not kids, at least boys or men. But the vast majority of casual gamers right now are women. Are women 26 to 54, which are the most highly sought after targets of the advertisers because they're spending most of the dollars. Not to sound sexist, but with the exception of electronics and cars, women are spending 70% of the dollars even on men's clothing. So that's really who the advertisers want to reach, and the casual game market is a very strong way to reach them right now. Like I said, they're over 60% of the casual gamers. And it's fascinating to me because when I speak to many women about this, they say, oh, that's ridiculous, I don't play any games. And I say, really, you don't play Words with Friends? Well, yeah, I play Words with Friends, and I play Pop It. And what they're really saying is, I don't play Call of Duty. And we know that. We absolutely know that, but that's not the target audience we're chasing. We're not trying to get into console games. We certainly can be a reward platform within console games that have any kind of internet connection, but we're after the casual, small mobile games right now to launch, and that's really attractive to the advertisers, and those mobile game publishers are really looking for a better way to monetize.
Well, that's really interesting, that section, because I wouldn't have guessed that as well, Terry. That's surprising. Do you see that continuing, or do you?
I think so. Nowadays people have a lot of extra time on their hands, whether they're sitting in a cab. I sort of, regret certain things. I used to spend my time in a taxi, thinking about the day, ruminating, planning the next thing. Now I'm spending my time in a taxi either catching up on emails or returning phone calls or gaming. I really am. We've become, for right or wrong, there's no going back on this, and I don't want to sound like my grandfather and that I'm complaining about it, but for right or wrong, we're people that have expectations that all our time will be used in some way. It won't just be used in our own head and thinking, and most of that time is going to be spent on a screen. And sometimes there's a relaxing element to not answering your emails or not returning calls or listening to voicemail or doing something like that. Just doing something not necessarily mindless, because in fact it sharpens a lot of your cognitive functions. They're now recommending a lot more digital gaming for people at risk for Alzheimer's or anything like that. It can be used to sharpen your brain, and those are positive attributes that you'll bring to all the other parts of your life as well if you can keep your brain sharp. So there's real value to doing that, and now what we've done is taken away a little bit of the guilt of, okay, if I spent my time playing that, you know what, I also spent my time while playing that, I won some real value for my family, for when I go out and buy shoes for my kids, or when we go to Starbucks or McDonald's or the Gap to buy clothing.
Terry, that just brings up a point in me. I've been wanting to play around with a program that is reward-based like that, but put it towards groceries and even fuel. Just thinking of the economy in certain areas of that people are sitting. They may be gaming, they may be doing something, but the rewards, if they could actually reap the rewards that actually paid, help them pay their bills.
Yep.
in some way, shape, and form, which is groceries, the things that they're going to already spend on. You've got another element in there in that the like you said, you get rid of the guilt and replace it instead by I'm actually doing something of benefit for my family, not wasting my time.
Yeah, we've added a productive element to something that was already entertaining, and what's bad about that? You know, they get to have their entertainment, they're doing what they were doing anyway, and now there's some, you know, like I said, productive element added to that. And as the economy has gotten more precarious, certainly coupon usage has gone up. And what we've done is now we've given people an opportunity where they don't have to spend dedicated time chasing those coupons. They can play a bean jar enabled game, and if upon registration they picked categories that will be useful to them, well, now they're just going to do what they were doing anyway, and they'll get those coupons as well. They don't have to dedicate separate parts of their day to that.
Yeah, I think you know, again, this has been a really cool interview, so I appreciate this, guys. I think we've covered pretty much everything that I wanted to. Now, I want to turn it over to you guys one last time and just give you the opportunity before Len closes things out. Like, is there anything else that you'd like to mention that maybe we didn't touch on that our users and our audience, you know, you can kind of plant a seed and basically, I want to kind of give the floor over to you guys of why should they you know, try My Bean Jar? Why should they integrate it into their app? And I know this whole interview's been about that, but I kind of want to give you one last.
Well, I think you know, what My Bean Jar can make any content more sticky, and we think that, you know, every publisher, no matter what they're creating, can relate to that. They want to engage the user, they want to keep them on, and they want to you know, bring them back in some way and make sure that, you know, they're having a good experience. So we think, you know, we can do that with Bean Jar. It's one way of doing that, and by the way, it can also kick off some revenue for you. So, you know, there's that I think is one of the lasting, you know, impressions that I'd like to leave. And for appreneurs out there, you know, who have to be open-minded to things like this, I think it should be something they consider.
And I think Dave just spoke very well to the advantage to the publishers or the content developers out there. And then I think from the advertiser standpoint, one thing we hadn't mentioned yet is that we, I don't think I mentioned this, please correct me if I did already, stop me from repeating myself, but the one thing we know, as long as we're launching in games first, is that the game players, it could be an 80-year-old woman, it could be a 14-year-old boy, but they came to us through a game. So the one thing we know is they're interested in that element. So we want to keep that alive within the app itself, and we want to do that to the advantage of the player and the advertiser. So Dave mentioned earlier that the advertiser has a chance to create a sustainable relationship with the consumer. One thing we offer is that the advertisers can create golden beans, a really special bean. Maybe Starbucks is offering a bean that's half price off a latte, and you win that, but they can offer a golden bean that's a free latte every day for a month, and we can use that then to reward people who've shared the Starbucks wins the most or who've redeemed the most. So in that sense, they can create a really sustainable relationship with the consumer that we'll mediate. We're not turning over the consumer's email address to them, to the advertiser. We're protecting the consumer from that. We don't want, just so that they win one half-price latte, they turn their email address over, and now Starbucks or anybody else is going to barrage their emails with offers they don't necessarily want. We're not doing that, but we will mediate a longer-term relationship with them. And then from the user standpoint, you're playing these games anyway. Why not play them to win? You know, not just to win the game, but to win real-world stuff. That just is going to be an advantage to you, to your friends, to your family, because you can share that. You know, you can share that with them. We have many features coming up in the roadmap that are going to involve trading beans and sharing beans and all kinds of other elements.
That's cool.
And you can be incentivized for those sharings.
Gotcha. Cool. As one last question that just popped into my head, so I'm going to throw you guys on the spot here. What about, like, I'm curious of some of the brands that you guys have on board right now. I mean, I know because I've been playing, but I'm wondering if you could just kind of share with some of our users, just so they can get an idea of what kind of rewards their users that are playing their games can actually see. And I'm sure the list is long, but maybe just like a handful.
Yeah, and we add them all the time. We're adding new sponsors in there, but like UGG boots, Sephora, Gap, Godiva chocolate,
Staples.
Staples. Let's see.
So
In some local places as well.
Yeah, so you guys are doing the mix between big box and local stuff, like depending on where they're at. I mean, that's a nice blend. So cool.
Absolutely.
I was just curious because I only picked a couple categories when I signed up, so I'm curious across the other categories what other people are seeing.
Yeah, and we've been careful. Many of these offers are redeemable online as well, so it meets the requirements of international fulfillment also. We want to play to the local, and we have some in LA from when we did the trial. We have some here in New York, in my particular area, but we also want to make sure from the game publisher standpoint that there's enough that are redeemable for all of their players, not just the players in New York and LA.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Cool.
expand the market.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I have to agree with Matt. I think that this has been a really good podcast. I think there's been a huge amount of juicy information. I got to thank Matt for his questions. Well done. And well done, you guys. Great information, not only just for the publishers, for the people that are the appreneurs out there, but also any of the companies that may be listening or watching this that have brands that they'd like more exposure to. I mean, I really suggest, urge, tell all of our watchers to check out My Bean Jar in greater detail for your stuff, for whether you have a game or utility app or whatever you're doing. Really think about making that connection with these guys, because it really is a much better paradigm than just offering the one solution to advertising out there. So again, we thank you. We can't thank you enough for being here, you guys, Terry and David, and sharing our info with the crowd. One last thing, just before we close it out, tell everybody that's watching, how do they find out more about Bean Jar and you guys? Where do they go, and what are some final thoughts of wisdom you can throw out there concerning app marketing or monetization for these apps?
They can check us out at mybeanjar.com and watch our video. I'm particularly proud of that. It has some comic book elements in it, cool. And it's funny, it's exciting, you'll laugh, you'll cry. As well as what I really encourage everybody to do, the My Bean Jar app is in the App Store along with some Bean Jar-enabled games, which you'll see in the games list in the app itself. And I encourage everybody to try it out for themselves and really see that the experience has value to the player, the user, the game publisher, and the advertiser. And then I'll leave the words of wisdom to Dave.
Oh my God! It's free.
It's free.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Brilliant, man. Brilliant. There we go. Well, again, thanks, you guys. We've had David Chodish and Terry Cavanaugh from mybeanjar.com on this time. Please check their stuff out at www.mybeanjar.com. And again, this podcast was brought to you by my partner, Matthew Lutz, COO of AppClover.com, and myself, Len Wright, CEO of AppClover.com. And we thank you again for being with us.
Thanks,
have a great
guys.
day.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thanks very much.
Take care.